Good afternoon. I'd like to thank you for your time as I appreciate you joining this call. Today, I will be presenting information about a new professional development opportunity for novice teachers and experienced teachers to new campuses. This information was developed to provide an opportunity for campuses to implement mentoring programs to help experienced teachers adjust to their new environment and assist novice teachers in successfully completing their first year in an educational setting. So I'd like for you to ponder on this. One of the greatest values of mentors is the ability to see ahead what others cannot see and to help them navigate a course to their destination. Essentially, if you could go back to your novice year as a teacher or your first year on a new campus, reflect on what could have made your experience better. And I challenge you to be that change you wish to see. On your screen, you will see the agenda for this meeting. We will begin with a short icebreaker, followed by a discussion. Then we'll dive right into the meat of the presentation. So I'd like to begin discussing some of our experiences that we've encountered over the extended break. What you all do? I know for me, I frequently exercised and cooked and engaged in virtual learnings with my 4-year-old. And I have to tell you, I have a newfound respect for kindergarten teachers for sure. What about you all? What'd you all do?
Well, kudos to you for exercising because I have done the complete opposite, and I believe that I have gained the COVID-19. But, all in all, I will get to that exercising sooner enough. But I've been doing a lot of Netflixing, a lot of, everything that you've been doing minus the exercising. And I've also been trying to keep my skills sharpened by learning ASL and SQL on the side.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. Good for you.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's awesome. I haven't done as much exercising, I will say. I'm like you, Renaja, but I have had, I have kids, so I have to secure them pretty much, make sure they're staying on track and playing mom, wife, teacher, times two. So it's been really interesting to be working remotely. I've also caught up on a lot of house projects. So that's been really
nice.
Yeah. My husband, I don't know, he's just been wild with these house projects. And I'm like, oh, let me add this on this honey-do list.
Take advantage of it.
Yeah, take advantage of it because he's just really been like going in with it. And I'm like, okay, this is great. We've cleaned out closets, cleaned out rooms that, have been like, oh, I just want to pass by them, just keep passing by them. We finally cleaned them out. So lots of house projects and getting things in order around here. So it's been really good kind of to slow down and really, because we've always been in that mode and that pace of got to go run the kids here, got to go to this practice, got to pick them up, got to be on time. It's been really nice to kind of slow down a little bit and kind of find some family values.
Oh, yeah, I definitely understand that for sure. Well, thank you both for sharing. I really do appreciate that.
Absolutely.
So as we prepare to move back into the traditional face-to-face setting and transition into our new norm, I want to share a few best practices that I'm sure we're all familiar with, but I still just want to share them for the sake of it. So ensure that, you're washing your hands frequently, you're avoiding touching your face with unwashed hands, you're practicing good hygiene and etiquette, common courtesy when you're coughing or sneezing, make sure you cover your mouth and then wash your hands immediately after. And then if you're sick, please stay at home. And then if you are coming into close contact with someone who presents signs of illness, please just, stay at home if you can. So now I'd like to engage in a brief discussion. What's your preferred learning style? Are you a reflective learner where you prefer using logic, reasoning, systems? Are you an auditory or a visual learner? Do you learn best by using your hands, your body, your sense of touch. I myself, I'm a visual learner and a kinesthetic learner. So I have to touch it, sometimes repeatedly, to truly understand the concept of what's being taught. So how do you learn?
I'm definitely a visual and kinesthetic. I have to like see someone do it first, and then I actually have to do it myself in order to like really get it. So I'm really that person. I admire those folks that can just read something or hear something and just run with it, but not me. I really have to like visualize it first and get it in, like let it kind of filter through my brain first, and then make sure that I'm able to do it hands-on as well, maybe with even some, help, or someone just kind of say, yep, you're on track, So I really need that hands-on approach. So that's my style.
Okay, thank you for sharing. What about you, Renaja?
So for me, I'm definitely a person who has to jump right in and do it. And the more I do it, the better. Repetition is definitely the key of mastery. So the more I can get right in, do it over and over and over again, that's what's really gonna seal the deal for me. That's where it's gonna get written in stone, and I'm gonna be able to truly master whatever I'm attacking.
Awesome. Great answers, ladies. Thank you so much for sharing.
Absolutely.
Now I'd like to present a short video clip. Let's hope technology does not fail us now.
What is your why? Why did you even get out of the bed this morning? Why did you eat what you ate? Why did you wear what you wore? Why did you come here? We are here to connect. Life is about people. Advertising is about illuminating how our products and services will improve people's lives. Now, how do we do that? Love, time, death. Now, these three abstractions connect every single human being on earth. Everything that we covet, everything that we fear not having, everything that we ultimately end up buying is because at the end of the day, we long for love, we wish we had more time, and we fear death. Love, time, death.
Wow.
Gotta love that Will Smith, right?
Yeah.
Love it.
Deep.
Yes, very, very profound. So what's your why? Why are you here? Why did you decide this career path? Let's talk about that for a second.
Well, I really, I'll go first if that's okay. Really, I really liked what Will Smith said about the connection, because for a human, the connectivity is very important for us, especially in the time we're living in right now, with so much going on in our environment and our states of being, the racism and the prejudicism that we're seeing. It's really important to me to connect to my students, to connect to my team, my administrative staff. And I am really fascinated about the generational or the generations. As we study the generations, like the millennials, Generation X's, the Generation Y's, and I like to study their characteristics, their values, and the things that they see and what really connects them. And even the baby boomers who are, my parents and my great grandparents and those that came before me, I look at how the generations change over time. But one thing that always stands is basically what he said, the connection of the time, death. We all, want those things, and we all fear those things, never having enough time. We were talking about that earlier. So as the generations are changing, that's something that I always like to think about. Like, what impact will I have on the generation and those that are coming through my classrooms every day? You know, what challenges for them? Because as I think about my lifetime, I've been in education over 20 years. So in my lifetime, I've seen so many different changes and so many different, maybe opportunities. There are different opportunities for different cultures and for different environments that you're in. So I started when we were writing on tablets, and now a tablet is an electronic piece.
Yeah.
Electronic device. You know, we started with pencils and pens, and now we have electronic devices, and that you can just touch the screen. So you can kind of see those things evolving. So you have to think about the challenges. And I always like to push my students to think outside the box. Think about not just now, but in your generation that's coming next behind you. Mm-hmm. What will you leave? What will your footprint be? What will your legacy be? So I always try to help them to adjust to the life challenges that they have, because, you know, you have different groups of students that come through your doors every day. Some are, you know, come from a middle class or more wealthier family, where others may be, you know, more impoverished. So you have to be able to connect and meet them where they are. And while we were talking about learning styles earlier, it's very important to understand the adult learning theories and how people learn differently. And I appreciate you, Jasmine, for touching on that, because it is definitely true that those theories, although they're theories, when you apply it in practice, it can be a little different. So those are where the challenges come in, you know, where you have to adjust those learning styles and those theories to your students, you know, on a daily basis. So just trying to challenge them to think outside the box, think about not just this moment. Don't do something silly or stupid, you know, in your lifetime that's going to affect you 5 or 10 years down the road.
Right.
So I can preach on and on.
No, this is valuable feedback. I really do appreciate you sharing that. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
What
so
about
that's
you?
My why.
Yes, thank you. What about you, Renaja?
Oh, well, for me, the answer is pretty simple. I want to be that teacher for at least, you know, one student. If I could do it for one student, that's it. Everyone has that one teacher who they just will never forget. It's something that they've said, how they made them feel, the way that they, you know, treated them throughout whenever they gave them instruction. Everyone remembers that one teacher. And if you're lucky, you've had several. But I want to be that favorite teacher for someone, that's someone who I still will maybe have that impact on them as they grow up, as they have their own kids, as hopefully maybe they'll get an education themselves. You know, I just want to be that person for someone else, be their favorite teacher.
This is all phenomenal reasons. These are all phenomenal whys. So thank you all for sharing your whys. My why is fairly simple. Every student deserves a great education. But in order to do that, I'm obligated to motivate and amplify my staff, which requires energy. Amplification takes determination. Mm-hmm. Teaching requires passion and joy. Yep. You may not always feel like getting out of the bed and coming to work, but you fake that enthusiasm and you drink those 2 cups of coffee before 7 a.m. because you know that your students heavily rely on you and you don't want to let them down. Mm-hmm. So all in all, energy is contagious. Ambition is contagious. Passion is contagious. The most valuable variables we have is time and opportunity. And because these are such precious sentiments, we are obligated to share them with others. Every time you share these sentiments with your students, embrace the moment and remember the impact that you have, because they may not receive much of anyone else's time and attention elsewhere.
Oh, wow. That's very emotional. That's wonderful. That's really good.
Thank you.
And think about. I also like to say, Renaja, that's interesting that you would say you want to be that teacher, because like my, some of my students come back and visit me, and sometimes like, okay, what child is this? What baby is this? But they remembered me. So that's amazing that, you know, you have those students that think enough of you to take out their time of their day to come and, you know, actually come and visit. So
Yeah,
that's
that's inspiring.
Absolutely.
Very inspiring. And that's essentially
what
that's
it's all
what we do.
about.
Yes,
What
that's
it's
what it's
about.
all about, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing that information. So let's analyze this information. I want to talk about the commonalities between these questions. What were the point of these questions? You know, what's the commonality and how can you apply these questions in your classroom? The point is, we all learn differently, but we all share the same common goal, which is to promote learning in a safe and conducive environment to support our students and aid in their learning processes by mastering new concepts, standards, and skills. So, what is mentorship? What does it look like? Why is it important? Essentially, a mentorship is a collaboration between an individual with a specific expertise in a subject who shares knowledge and skills and experiences with an individual seeking progress and guidance in those careers because they don't possess adequate knowledge in that given subject. So some of the most famous mentorships exist between Phil Jackson and Michael Jordan, as illustrated here, Warren Buffett and Bill Gates, Steve Jobs and Mark Zuckerberg. Essentially, the mentor is responsible for training, guiding, and motivating their mentee toward a higher level of success in that given area. Before we can implement the program, we have to develop the vision and establish the goals and objectives for the mentorship based on our specific campus needs. Once mentors are selected, they must undergo specific training that will help them determine best practices when guiding and facilitating the thinking of their mentees. When mentees are selected, they will also receive coaching on how to get the most out of their experience with their mentors. For both parties to make the most of their experience with each other, essentially, matching should be based on personality commonalities, interests, and shared hobbies. It is a good practice to monitor the progress and effectiveness by keeping up with the number of meetings and providing informal assessments to track how the program is going. Mm-hmm. Continued improvement should always be the focus for the program. There's always room for growth, so routine assessment seeking feedback from participants is invaluable. So as a teacher returning back to the classroom amid this global pandemic, what do you need from us? What do you need? What are some of your needs?
So for me, I need help with resources. I need help with strategies, especially in this day and time with COVID-19. I need strategies to apply to the classroom to help students who might have been affected, and even further, those who might not have been affected, just resources to approach the situation in total because it's new for everyone.
Good deal. I'm glad that you brought that up because we're going to discuss that later on in this presentation.
Well, perfect.
Awesome.
I'm similar to Renaja as far as resources. Knowing I pretty much need ways to grow professionally in the academic community.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think as teachers, we're always learners as well, you know, and you should always learn something. My mom always told me, you learn something new every day. So that's, you know, something to take in. But I think also connecting with other fellow educators to give more students more ways to learn and more ways to be successful. So learning from each other. I mean, I think as teachers, we have really nice cohorts of and groups and ways that we can share amongst each other. So being able to say, hey, okay, with that curriculum or that lecture, what did you do? And give me some examples of how you connected to your students. So I'm always looking for ways to validate my teaching style and using those teaching moments to just develop myself better.
Thank you. These are all great answers, and that validation is very important. Thank you for saying that, because that brings me to our next topic as to why we mentor. Mentorships, they should be motivating, challenging, and inspiring. We want to increase teacher performance and in turn grow professionally. And by doing so, we naturally create an environment of consistency where staff actually enjoy growing with their students and colleagues, because education is an ever-evolving subject, as you mentioned earlier.
Mm-hmm.
So what qualities make for an effective mentor/mentee relationship? Are there any that you can think of?
Certainly. The first thing that came to mind was definitely listening. It has to be listening on both parts. In order for the mentor to effectively provide the mentee with useful information, they have to listen to what they're asking for, and vice versa. The mentee has to listen and, absorb as much as they can from their mentor. So listening is a huge part. You have to actively and effectively listen, because it's a mutually beneficial relationship.
Very, very true. Very true. Thank you. What about you, Miss Latasha?
I like what you said there, Renaja, regarding listening, because you said it's a mutual relationship. So my thing is also, I like the slide previously where it talked about, and I like that you highlighted some of those key mentoring characteristics: improving yourself, performing, enhancing, maintaining, supporting. Those are very key, I think, in a mentorship relationship. And for me, the desire is on both parts. I think it should be a shared partnership between the mentee and the mentor, and that both those folks both of them should be available to each other.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, you have to have that scheduled availability. You just can't pop up in the middle of the night and say at midnight, I need to, unless you have that relationship with your mentor. I think you do need to make yourself available to me, because if I need a question answered, that was one of my things when I was working on my doctorate. I had to figure out, okay, what do I want to do online, or do I want to do classroom, hybrid, because for me, if I have something in my mind and I need an answer right there, I don't want to wait for someone maybe to post it online,
Right.
And have to wait for my professor to respond. But I ended up doing a hybrid curriculum, which actually worked out pretty nicely. But yeah, my thing is about being available, being there when I need you. And likewise, me being available to that person, because I feel like it is a shared partnership.
Good deal. And you're both right. There are a lot of attributes that both the mentor and mentee should both possess to be successful collaboratively. So we'll talk about that in just a minute. But a mentor motivates and manages the professional relationship. They encourage and show compassion and understanding. They nurture the mentee and aids in facilitating their thinking. They teach best practices to enhance the learning environment. They offer mutual respect, trust, and honesty, and that is very important. And they respond to the needs of their mentee.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about the expectations. What can you expect from your mentor? And I truly believe that a good mentor will support and guide you in developing strategies to reach all of your students. They are slow to draw premature conclusions, because the foundation of the relationship will be based on respect, sincerity, and trust. They will share relevant experiences with the purpose of making intuitive connections and provide corrective feedback when necessary.
Mhm.
Talking about the mentee for a second. Sorry, I just had a message pop up on this Zoom call, so technology is always, in the mix. Give me just a moment. Okay, my apologies. Attributes of an effective mentee. A great mentee is willing to learn and accept feedback, discuss opportunities to grow and improve, and ask for help when needed. They value different ideas and opinions. They consider and try new things and accept opposing viewpoints respectfully. A great mentee altogether shows initiative and takes charge without being prompted to do so. Now, on this slide, there are several skills listed, but I only want to highlight a couple. These are skills needed by both the mentee and mentor. A great mentee is reflective on their experiences, taking in the feedback given by their mentor. They also possess introspect, subjected to becoming better in their craft of teaching. A great mentor is capable of offering corrective feedback in a way that's respectful and honest. Both parties will get out what they put in altogether. Mentorship programs can provide value to the educational environment in many ways. It helps parties accomplish goals, achieve objectives, and receive valuable feedback needed to grow professionally. Feedback can be given by way of formal observations, informal walkthroughs, advising, and evaluations. Okay. I know that many of you come from diverse backgrounds offering varied service years, which helps bring authenticity to this program. Some of you have less than 5 years experience, while others greater than 20. But as you ponder these questions, think about what a new teacher would need to ensure their success inside and outside of the class. So number one, what are the most common needs of new teachers? Number two, how can this mentorship address those needs? And number three, what strategies are most beneficial to the success of new teachers? New teachers can benefit from assistance with balancing the workload. This allows teachers to become acclimated to their new environments without stress of overexerting themselves, which could potentially lead to burnout. Establishing their own teaching philosophy. My philosophy has always been give all, take nothing. I devote my energy into my craft of educating, which fuels passion within my students and colleagues. I take no relationship or experience for granted because there are learning opportunities in all we do. New teachers can also benefit from assistance with comprehending the system and the grade book and the campus network. It's not always easy learning a new system. Technology can be tricky, as we see, especially if you don't speak the language. However, your mentor should be able to take that ease and stress by providing tips, strategies, and resources to help with that transition. And new teachers can also benefit with assistance from assistance with lesson planning and common best practices. So stepping into a new role with the new system can be hectic for many people. Having assistance to learn how to properly assess and document your students will provide ease for new teachers. So here are some strategies that are beneficial to the success of novice teachers and new teachers on new campuses. Purposeful recruitment and appropriate trainings for mentors. One of my favorite quotes says, "Tell me and I forget. Teach me and I may remember. Involve me and I learn."
Mhm.
Mentors should guide their mentees in such a way that they build up their confidence, nurture their thinking, and influence their experiences. A plethora of opportunities are needed for veteran and novice teachers to interact through co-teachings, professional developments, workshops, professional mixers, and retreats. So all in all, mentoring alone is not enough. You have to nurture the relationship, because when you do that, that will foster trust, respect, and honesty between both parties.
Mhm.
Now, I'd like for us to openly discuss and highlight a few differences between teaching pre and post COVID-19. We're moving into the professional development side of it. So, what are some of those key differences that you can think of?
Well, just right off the top, I'm thinking about students not, having the same instruction that they've been used to for so long, and then having to make quick adjustments. So they're not doing extracurricular activities anymore. And, you know, 9 times out of 10, their parents aren't educators, they're not teachers. So they're probably also not getting every single subject that would be covered in a normal school like environment. So I assume that maybe they're not covering as much curriculum that they would have been doing pre-COVID-19.
That's very true. Valid point. Thank you for sharing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Renaja, you bring up a really tough topic to even think about. As we work remotely, I'm actually enjoying it. I'm students in my classroom, but being, like I said earlier, being able to slow down a little bit and reflect on life is important. So having that work-life balance has really been important, and a value that I've seen as I've kind of slowed down. It's like getting back to family values and family matters. So balancing that work and that learning, and that balance between work and life, and learning remotely. I mean, I think maybe this is the future. I mean, is the computer the new classroom, the future classroom? Like, are we going to be working in two different environments and not having that social connection? And that's the other piece you have to think about when you're working remotely. How can you connect effectively to your students? I look at many other countries and see how America really is far behind on our education system. And many other countries have always used remote learning in some fashion, and it maybe has been a hybrid model. But it may be fairly new for some students. We have to think about their needs as well, as far as having the technology that they need in their homes. I've been working with some of the students this school year, and some of the Wi-Fi, something as simple as the Wi-Fi connectivity may not be as strong where you're able to, hold these sessions. Some of them didn't have computers or the appropriate computers. Some still had desktops versus laptops that were, a little older. So we have to be fair and think about those students' needs and the resources they need. And, as we do, if we do, because I know some of the school systems presently are talking about working a hybrid model. And if we do that, we have to think about how can we supply the students with the needs that, instead, it may not be a textbook now, it may be a laptop,
Yeah.
for the school year. So just learning now how to properly and effectively integrate technology into the classroom.
Definitely. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
It's just definitely interesting, integrating that technology and the topic of leniency. Like, how do you enforce deadlines, when you're not really sure if, all of your students have the proper technology, or if they have proper Wi-Fi connections, as you mentioned before.
Mhm.
It's just, it's just a topic that definitely is probably going to be a huge one in the next year or so, and everyone's focused on it. But, you know, as long as we're all working together and have the students' interest and heart, you know, I feel like we can accomplish a lot.
Absolutely.
I also have to think about it from the administrative office's perspective. Renaja, you said something about administration. So having the ability to really provide the resources that the teachers need as well. You know, that's something that, you know, I wouldn't want to be the administrators now having to make policies about, you know, rewriting curriculums and rewriting policies, school policies and protocols that we have to follow, because it's definitely a challenge right now.
It is.
Many of the, you know, as we, and Jasmine, kudos to you to bettering your education as well, because at some point you may be one of those administrators making calls and making those policies and things that, you know, we need to, as new teachers, understand and relate to. So yeah, it's going to be a new day.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yes, everything that you both said are correct, and I think that we are all learning. This is obviously, you know, unprecedented times that we've never seen before. So that's just something that we have to keep in mind. But whether it's remote learning or face-to-face format, our goal remains the same.
Yeah, true.
Promote student achievement inside and outside of the classroom. Understand the importance of differentiation, because that is very, very important, and understand how to strategically and purposefully plan. So, as we embrace this new school year, I am going to ask that you all proceed with caution. Some students have suffered a direct loss from this pandemic, so it is imperative that we operate with a sense of warmth, empathy, and compassion upon our students' return. Develop a social, emotional learning plan and implement it through instructional learning. The sudden school closures eradicated the enrichment of co-curricular and extracurricular activities, so students may be a little rambunctious upon their return. So I ask that you exercise patience and understanding. And then lastly, for some families who've been directly impacted by COVID-19 through the loss of a family member or work or health issues, survival is their primary focus. So educational expectations may be secondary or slightly relaxed. So we just have to consider that and keep that in the back of our minds as we enter this next school year, this new school year. Blending is here to stay. Blended learning is here to stay. It's not going anywhere. I think that we can all agree that this is the new norm. So digital tools complement virtual learning. So the more familiar you are remotely, the better you'll be during face-to-face teachings.
Yes.
You want to ensure that you're reaching your students at their level of understanding through the use of relevant activities that interest them. Incorporate their ideas into your lesson plans. There's nothing wrong with that at all. And then you also need to make sure that you're continuously checking for understanding through the use of formal and informal activities. So as we become fluid with virtual and face-to-face learning, I've provided 7 best practices for teaching online. Establish your teaching presence early in the year. Set clear and precise expectations. Establish measurable goals and realistic objectives. Motivate your students through real-world practicum and real-world application, allowing them to make connections with their environment. Orient students to the online course and provide continuous feedback to improve student outcomes. Here I provided a sample reflective activity that you can use for self-reflection and self-evaluation, or you can share with your students as a Think Peer Share activity.
This is nice.
Mm-hmm.
I'll ensure that you receive a copy of this as well.
Thank you.
Thanks.
So, I know we've all talked about it. We've all said the word several times on this call: differentiate, differentiate, differentiate. We're better together because of our differences. Our differences makes us stronger.
Mm-hmm.
We all learn differently. What may work for one student may not work for the next, which is why differentiation is so important. Get to know your students, learn their interests, and find ways to incorporate them into the classroom. Furthermore, be sure to pay close attention to students who show signs of struggle. They may need additional academic support due to the loss of instruction time because of COVID-19. So what are different strategies we could use to support differentiation inside of the classroom?
Is that a question for us? Okay. I didn't know if you were going to keep going. I think because I work in a school district that's very diverse, so understanding and being able to accept the diversity, but also with limits, because students can try you, but allowing them to express themselves. And I like in the slide that you placed earlier about losses and being affected, personally by COVID-19. Some of those students are going to bring those emotions and bring that loss with them to the classroom. So also I think it's important to be able to allow them to express themselves, within boundaries, but express themselves, and helping them to reflect on this unprecedented pandemic that no one may ever see again in their lifetime.
Right.
I mean, I have never seen where the whole world basically stops, shut down all of America. I've never seen that. And many people older than me, have never seen anything like it. And you hear people say, oh my God, this is just, I can't believe this is happening. I mean, this is like almost the world coming to an end, So I think it's very important that we allow students to be able to express themselves openly, and being able to reflect on the diversity and build on that, because that's very good that you can, especially I'll go back to this time that we're living in. It's important, and we are seeing expressions, some positive, some negative, but people want to be heard. So if you give them a platform, a positive platform within boundaries to express themselves, you develop a person, a little person that grows to a big person down the line that will be able to effectively live in an environment that is shared by so much diversity.
Yeah.
So, for me, I think that it's just as simple as paying attention to your students and seeing what they respond to. So, just literally differentiate the way that you teach. One day you might do a lecture, the other day you might let them do a hands-on activity where they have to physically apply what they've been taught. And then you can maybe do a video one day so that your auditory and your visual learners are getting, their form of education as well. So it's just all an application and awareness. And I think that's a really good way to have differentiation in your classroom.
Yes, I think, well, obviously everything that you all said is very true and correct. I think it's very important for us to just understand that we all learn differently, and what may work for me may not work for you, and that's okay. Because what makes us differences, what makes us different makes us strong. So thank you for sharing.
Absolutely.
So establishing your classroom management style, in order to be your best self in the classroom, you must determine your management style prior to class. Someone once said, failing to prepare is preparing to fail. And it's so true.
True.
So ensure you're actively monitoring everything that's happening in your classroom, because it's so easy for students to lose focus, which could lead to distractions, and that can disrupt the learning environment for sure. Scaffold and motivate students to think independently and make connections. This supports student learning, allowing students to creatively think, thrive, and participate in the classroom. And then when distractions are limited in the classroom, learning can actually happen, which is what we all want. There's nothing better than seeing your students thrive in a classroom environment that is fun and educational at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Part of effective classroom management is knowing when administrative backup is needed. Every disruption does not warrant a referral or administrative backup. So if you follow these steps, you should be perfectly fine in any situation until you're not. Remain calm. You must address the disruptive behavior to decrease the likelihood of it happening again. Allow the student to express themselves, as you said earlier, Latasha. This allows you to hold the student accountable for their actions. Listen to what's truly being said, because there's usually more to the situation than what the student is sharing. Document the situation. Teachers must demand the respect of the student and set the standard at the beginning of the year. And recognize any opportunity to help the student. If a disruption occurs, use nonverbal or transitional cues to redirect behavior.
Mm-hmm.
So in closing, going back to your why, allow that to carry you throughout the course of this unorthodox school year. We're living in unprecedented times, so we have to remember that we're all learning. Let's move in unison with our best foot forward, leaning on one another to make each other better and show empathy, respect, and compassion towards our students and our colleagues, because you never know what a person is dealing with, nor how they've been affected by COVID-19.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Very nice.
Thank
Great
you.
presentation. Really good. And thanks for allowing us the opportunity to share our thoughts as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I will ensure that you all receive a copy of this presentation. Do you all have any questions or comments?
I just want to say that this has been really helpful. I've been personally really stressed out trying to figure out how I'm going to transition after this huge pandemic that has, welcomed us all. So this has been really helpful. It's given me a lot of tips and insight on how to successfully, help my students. That's ultimately what I want to do, and I just needed to know how to do it effectively. And it's great to know that I have the support of administration.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much. If you all don't have any further questions, I will go ahead and give you your time back. And like I said, I will make sure that you receive this this PowerPoint presentation. So thank you all, and you all have a good night and enjoy the rest of your evening.
You as well. Thank you, Jasmine.
Thank you.
Thank you.